Hi everyone, this is Kwong. Welcome to JuliaCon 2022. Today I would like to talk to you about contexts and capabilities and how to use them to provide privacy protection. In case you don't know who I am the author of Design Patterns and Best Practices with Julia book. I am currently working as a software engineer at Meta. I have about 30 years of programming experience, and this year I'm proud to be an organizer for the JuliaCon conference. I am also the admin and moderator for the Humans of Julia Discord server. Now, privacy matters a lot to people. This is one of the most important things on the internet today. You might have heard about GDPR, which is a regulation coming out of Europe, and FTC, which is a US regulation body that is also concerned about privacy, an e-privacy directive, another thing that comes out of Europe. Now, I can tell you that providing privacy protection is a very challenging problem. The reason I can say that is because I work for Meta. And I joined the company about a year and a half ago, and the whole time I have been working on the privacy infra stack. And I can tell you that the company takes privacy very seriously. What's interesting about privacy is that you can do a lot of things directly in the programming languages themselves. And context and capabilities is one of the ways to provide certain type of privacy protection in code. So that would be the topic today. Now, just a quick disclaimer. Everything that I describe in this presentation today are actually open source work that I do in my spare time, and they're not being funded by the company, nor am I a spokesperson of the company. Just keep that in mind. Now let's take a look at a quick example. So this person is using some kind of a website, and she needs to enter a support form. As part of the process, eventually she will receive some kind of text message back from the website. Now, unfortunately, in this example, the contact information is being logged into a log file that is later ingested into a machine learning workflow that is used for advertisement purpose. Not great, right? So how do we solve that problem? So one way that we can fix that problem is to just start tagging everything with some labels. So in this case, you can see that the support workflow are being tagged with support and SMS labels, and the log file is tagged with support label, and the ads workflow is being tagged with ads. Once you have everything tagged, then a privacy check can happen for every data flow in the system. So in this case, for example, the machine learning workflow should not be able to read from the log file because the log file says, hey, you can only use the data for support purpose, not for ads purpose, right? So that data flow should be blocked. This is what we call information flow control. So in information flow control, you can define zones, and you can think of a zone is a boundary of your code that is tagged with its purposes. Now let's talk about capabilities at the function level. You can think of the capabilities as the same labels that I talked about earlier. But let me describe how it's different here. So let's say the send notification function has SMS capability being tagged. What it means is that the function wants all of its caller to provide the capability that it asks for. So in this case, the process support request function can provide support and SMS capabilities. And so this function call should be okay. In this second example, you've got the caller that can only provide support and SMS capability, but the callee require you to have ads capability. So this call cannot happen. Now sometimes, even though the capability tells you that the call can happen, but a lot of times with privacy use cases, we need to know whether the user has provided certain type of consent. in order for something like that to happen. So an example would be something like, I just submitted the support form, but maybe I don't want to receive any text messages. Now, these information about my consent could be available directly in the background, and we call this context. Now, today I'll focus on capabilities more because I have an experimental package, and this package allows you to define capabilities and tag functions, as well as at runtime it does a privacy check to make sure that a function can call another function. Defining capabilities is actually quite simple, but rather than distinct labels, you can actually think of it as an abstract type hierarchy. So at the top of this hierarchy, what I call default is a capability that allows you to do anything in the world. As you go down to the hierarchy, you get fewer and fewer capabilities, right? So the messaging capability and apps capability are distinct and separate, but the apps capability is able to provide functionality for both support and apps. Tagging functions with capabilities is actually quite simple. You can say, okay, hey, I want SMS capability assigned for sanification function. And I can say, okay, for the chain ML model function, I give it an S capability. And then for this call, the process support request itself is being tagged with support and SMS capability. And so we can call sanification function, but it won't be able to call the chain ML model function, right? So the concept is actually quite simple. Now, given everything that I just talked about today, you may wonder, can we actually make Julia privacy aware, right? And in order to do that, you almost think that every code, every function should be tagged with some capability. And that includes base, standard lib, and also any third-party dependencies that you use. But you may also wonder, if you tag all the functions and you run a privacy check for every function call, wouldn't that make the system extremely slow? And you are right in that sense when we have to perform a runtime check. However, we can actually implement some kind of static type checker. So instead of running this privacy check at runtime, we can do that as the compile time. And lastly, the code must be refactored to become leak safe. Now, leak safety is not something that I can cover today because that is a relatively big topic. But if you're interested about leak safety, we can talk offline. At this point, I would like to open up to the audience. Do you think it is worth making the Julia language and its ecosystem to become privacy aware? All right. Thank you for watching. I'll see you at the Q&A.